Hi, fellow writers. It's grammar time, your very favorite time. We're going to talk about subjects and verbs and pronouns and fragments and run-on sentences, comma splices, adjectives, introductory phrases, quotations, citations, misplaced modifiers, oh my goodness, conjunctions, all kinds of things go into our writing, don't they? Nouns, pronouns, oh, even spacing. Did you know that there's only one space between a period and the start of a next sentence? Question marks, commas, oh, those misplaced commas. We have them all over the place, don't we? When is it right to have a period? Oh my, it's all about analysis. All those tiny little things about grammar that make the big difference in understanding what your analysis is of a subject. So let's get started. You've probably heard float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, the hands can't hit what the eyes can't see. Muhammad Ali. He had a way with words, didn't he? And you know, there's punctuation, there's grammar all through this. There's a quotation, a comma, period, and then, oh my goodness, everything else. This bee has many parts to him. And grammar has many parts to it as well. So let's get started. What are some typical errors? Run-on sentences, including comma splices. Comma usage, oh my goodness, misplaced commas and missing commas, apostrophes, sentence fragments, parallel construction, missing parallel construction, subject verb agreement and disagreement, noun pronoun disagreement, word choice and spelling errors, and verb tense shifts. All typical errors. We all write with these errors, but the key is to go back and edit. So let's look at some sentences. What is a sentence? It's a subject plus a verb plus a complete thought. It's called an independent clause. What's a fragment? Well, it has perhaps a subject but no verb. It's called a dependent clause. Or it has only a verb and no subject. It's also a dependent clause. Now, what is a verb? A verb is an action word or a state of being, like is, are, be. And a fragment can also be a subject plus a verb, but an incomplete thought. Okay, there are run-on sentences that just confuse the meaning. Okay, a run-on sentence is made up of an independent clause, that's a complete sentence. Okay, it has subject, verb, and complete thought. So it has the independent clause plus an independent clause, another sentence, plus no punctuation. So you have two sentences together and no punctuation. That's a run-on sentence. How do we repair that? Well, we have a semicolon between the independent clauses, between the two sentences. Or we have an independent clause with a comma plus a conjunction. A conjunction is a connecting word like and, but, for, or, plus the independent clause. So you have the independent clause or the sentence with a comma plus a connecting word plus the other independent clause or sentence. Or you have the independent clause, the complete sentence with a period, and then you begin a new sentence. 3 repairs for a run-on sentence. Okay, so here are some examples. Charles ran to the store. He brought broccolini and asparagus home. Okay, so Charles ran to the store is an independent clause. It's a sentence. It has the subject, the verb, and the complete thought. Charles ran to the store. He brought broccolini and asparagus home. That also is a complete sentence or an independent clause. He is the subject. Brought is the verb, and the complete thought is he brought broccolini and asparagus home. So you could repair it by saying, Charles ran to the store, comma, and he brought broccolini and asparagus home. Or you could say, Charles ran to the store, semicolon, he brought broccolini and asparagus home. Or you could have 2 sentences there. Charles ran to the store, period, capital H, he brought broccolini and asparagus home. Here's another one. Structure is important. We were raised to follow the rules set in place by our parents and other authoritative figures. Structure is important. It has the subject, structure, is the verb, which is a state of being, important, the complete thought. That is an independent clause. We were raised to follow the rules set in place by our parents and other authoritative figures. That also is a complete thought. We as a subject, were raised is the verb. So what you need is structure is important, comma, and we were raised. Or structure is important, semicolon, we were raised. Or structure is important, period, capital W, we were raised. Okay, then there are comma splices. A comma splice has an independent clause with a comma and an independent clause. 2 complete sentences connected with a comma. So how do we correct that? We have independent clause plus a comma plus a conjunction, a connecting word, and the independent clause. Or we have independent clause plus a semicolon plus the independent clause. Here are some examples. How can this process be honed? Why is this current process in place? What value is added to the customer? Oh my, we have 3 independent clauses connected by only commas. So we could say, how can this process be honed? Semicolon. Why is this current process in place? Comma, and what value is added to the customer? Or you could say, how can this process be honed? Comma, and why is this current process in place? Comma, and what value is added to the customer? That's too many ands, but it would be technically correct. What I would do is make 3 questions out of it. How can this process be honed? Question mark. Capital W, why is this current process in place? Question mark. What value is added? Capital W, what value is added to the customer? Question mark. Fragments. We have a multitude of fragments in student writing. It's a dependent clause. That means it is not a sentence. It does not have either a subject or a verb or an independent or complete thought. So a dependent clause plus a period. The repair is the dependent clause plus a comma plus an independent clause. Independent clause is the complete sentence, subject, verb, and a complete thought. For example, comma, an introductory phrase. The repair is an independent clause with a comma plus a dependent clause. While those individuals whose only asset was their labor became the working class. Oh my. So we have an introductory phrase here, while those individuals whose only asset was their labor, comma, became the working class. So we have an introductory phrase right here that should be separated with a comma after asset, but there's no subject. Was their labor became the working class. So how you might fix that is those individuals, remove while, capital T, those individuals whose only asset was their labor. So you would have those individuals, comma, whose only asset was their labor, comma, became the working class. Just like they would have done if they needed to replace any other commodity, such as raw materials or machinery, for a cheaper option. Again, this just like makes this a fragment. You don't have a complete thought. So you would have to add a complete thought here. You might write, if they needed to replace any other commodity, comma, such as raw materials or machinery, comma, for a cheaper option, they would have made changes. Here's one, that they look at companies like Hobby Lobby and use them as examples to close the wealth gap between industry owners and workers. Well, this is describing something that preceded. If you just removed the that, then you would have a complete thought and a complete sentence. They look at companies like Hobby Lobby and use them as examples to close the wealth gap between the industry owners and workers. Most importantly, oh, we lost it. Most importantly, work on leadership development as a group. Now that actually is a sentence if it is a command. Most importantly, comma, work on leadership development as a group. If it is a command, then it is a complete thought and sentence. Just needs a comma right there. More reason to implement and enforce leadership tools and reflexive communication. Well, more reason to implement and enforce leadership tools and reflexive communication. There was something that preceded that, and I don't know what it was. So you could say, the previous explanation provides more reason to implement and enforce leadership tools and reflexive communication. Just take some thinking. Introductory phrases and clauses. An introductory phrase is a dependent clause. It is not a complete thought, not a complete sentence. Dependent clause or phrase plus an independent clause, a complete thought, complete sentence. It sets the stage. the dependent clause does for the independent clause. So a repair might be, okay, you have a dependent clause or phrase, you add just the comma and the independent clause. For example, using the mapping tool, Brian wrote an excellent essay. So using the mapping tool introduces the independent clause. Brian wrote an excellent essay. So you would need to write using the mapping tool, comma, Brian wrote an excellent essay. After the game sets up, the couple went home. So after the game is an introductory phrase with a comma after it, and then the couple went home. In 1976, comma, the United States celebrated its bicentennial. Now we have dangling or misplaced modifiers, and these can become very confusing or funny, depending on what it is. So a dangling or misplaced modifier is a modifier plus an unrelated element. How we repair that is we place the modifier next to the related element. For example, being alone and not knowing locations of classes or people to talk to it, life became difficult a lot of the time. So is life being alone? I don't think so. I think it is I. Being alone and not knowing locations of classes or people to talk about it, I found that life became difficult a lot of the time. Elaine served ice cream to her classmates in paper bowls. Whoa, are her classmates in paper bowls? I don't think so. I think the ice cream is in paper bowls. So Elaine served ice cream in paper bowls to her classmates. So it can be funny. Passing the finish line, the crowd shouted and clapped. Well, did the crowd pass the finish line? Or did John pass the finish line? Passing the finish line, John smiled as the crowd shouted and clapped. I love this one. When 9 years old, my father taught me to play chess. Okay, were you even around when your father was 9 years old? I don't think so. Noun, pronoun agreement. I see this all the time. Noun, pronoun disagreement is what I see all the time. So you have a singular noun, you need a singular pronoun. If you have a plural noun, you need a plural pronoun. When students come to class, you should have your homework completed. Whoa. When students come to class, they should have their homework completed. So students, you need to match your pronouns to the students. So they should have their homework completed. A girl who makes good grades turns in their assignments on time. A girl, we know her gender. A girl who makes good grades turns in her assignments on time. If we didn't know that the person was a girl, but a student who makes good grades turns in their assignments on time is correct. Amazon credits their success to speedy delivery. Corporations are considered as people, singular. So Amazon credits its success to speedy delivery. And when a student comes to class, you should be ready to participate. Whoa. When a student comes to class, they should be ready to participate. Okay, agreement. When you have a plural subject, you need to pair it with a plural verb. When you have two or more nouns, you need to pair them with plural pronouns. When you have two or more nouns plus an or a nor, you pair it with a singular pronoun, or you pair it with whatever is closest to the or nor. Neither John nor his friends works hard. Okay, because friends is closer to the action word, the verb, then it would be work hard. One of the books were opened to the last chapter. One is the subject, so one of the books was opened. This is a prepositional phrase here. The subject is one. Each of the hamburgers were delicious. Each was delicious. The team has been together for 6 years. The CEO traveling with his CFO is visiting. The CEO is the subject. This is just an appositional phrase. The CEO is visiting the company's global teams. Verb tense. Oh my goodness. We cannot shift the verb tense within a sentence, and hopefully you can keep the verb tense the same within the paragraph. Sometimes that's not possible, but that is the preference. Whoa, sorry about that. The what if and the why questions were being asked, and how we can incorporate certain components into the new system. Okay, so the what if and why questions were being asked. That's in the past tense. And how we can incorporate is in the present tense. So you might say the what if and why questions were being asked, and we considered incorporating certain components into the system. So considered and were being asked. About dawn, the earth shook, the dresser tumbled over, and John runs out of the house. So you have past tense, shook, and tumbled, and then you have present tense. So you need to have it all past tense, shook, tumbled, and ran out of the house. Now there are exercises available for you at Purdue EDU-L, okay? Okay, so we're editing. What do you do first? You look at the facts, you look at the words, you organize, you examine the flow, then you examine your grammar and edit, and then you see analysis, hopefully analysis, not argumentation. Okay? But first, you write. You gather the facts, you write and write and write, then you organize your paper, then you look at the flow, then you examine your grammar, correct your grammar, and then hopefully you have an analysis. But there's proofreading you need to do, punctuation, and some of the typical errors here. So chemistry has contributed much to our understanding of foods, comma, that was a independent clause. Therefore, comma, many foods such as wheat and beans can be produced in the laboratory. Many foods such as wheat and beans can be produced in the laboratory is also an independent clause. So this comma should be replaced with a semicolon. A semicolon can connect two independent clauses. Some laboratory foods taste good. They are nutritious. This is a run-on sentence. Some laboratory foods taste good. That's a sentence. They are nutritious. That's an independent clause. They need to be separated with a semicolon or a comma plus an and. Chemists, they have made much progress. Oh my. So we have chemists here with an apostrophe that makes plural. Many chemists are possessing something. I don't see that they're possessing anything here. And then you have they, chemists, they. So I would write it, chemists, no apostrophe, have made much progress, comma, because this is not a complete sentence, not an independent clause. Let's go back to it. So you would have chemists, no apostrophe, minus the they. Chemists have made much progress, comma, although they still have a long way to go. This is not an independent clause, but it's a phrase, and it needs to be separated from the independent clause with a comma. At Starbucks today, Amy, Alanis, and Amalia order coffee. Well, at Starbucks today, that's an introductory phrase. That would be a comma right here. Amy, comma, Alanis, comma, and Amelia ordered coffee. All right. So when you have a series in APA format, you have a comma before the and or the connecting word, the conjunction. They all ordered lattes, comma, however, I was there and I hear Amy's was cold. Okay, many problems here. They all ordered lattes is an independent clause. And then, however, I was there and I hear Amy's was cold. I was there is a independent clause. And I hear Amy's was cold is an independent clause. So we need to first look at they all ordered lattes, semicolon. However, comma, I was there, comma, and I heard, past tense, Amy's needs Amy's is possessive, so it needs an apostrophe before the S here, was cold. They all ordered lattes, semicolon. However, comma, I was there, comma, and I heard Amy's, apostrophe S, was cold. Although the steamer wasn't working. Well, that's not an independent clause. Wasn't. We do not use contractions in academic writing. So although the steamer was not working, comma, small t, they ordered all different drinks. They ordered different drinks. Omit redundant words. Although the steamer was not working, comma, small t, they ordered different drinks, comma, or you could do a colon. Let's do a colon. They ordered different drinks, colon, a grande hazelnut latte, comma. No, wouldn't be a comma because Amy had a tall, non-fat vanilla one. Then there was a grande soy latte with extra foam. So I would remove Amy had, and I would say, although the steamer was not working, comma, small t, they ordered different drinks, colon, a grande hazelnut latte, comma, excuse me, a tall non-fat vanilla, then, comma, and a grande soy latte with extra foam. Excuse me. According to Valerie's textbook is one word. According to Valerie's textbook, comma, non-payment of rent in any form, comma, unreturned keys, comma, or a dirty apartment are a few of the items that can be charged to the renter, regardless of whose name is on the lease. In one case, the renter decided to fix the problems on his own, comma, such as holes he made in the wall. Hope that helps you. So what? Grammar is indeed important. It helps us to understand what the writer is trying to say. I hope that you found this grammar time helpful. Have a great day.